Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Build Tomorrow Hackathon by Weavy, our kickoff for the prototyping phase. I would like to congratulate you all on submitting and being qualified for the next phase. Today, I'm here, Kris, the technology evangelist of Weavy, and with me, I got Ayush Jain, the developer advocate of Weavy. It's really nice to see so many people joining up. Today, Ayush will actually go over how to get started with Weavy and get you a flying start. I will be working the Q&A, so be sure to push all the questions that you got through the Q&A, and I will do my best to reply them. In the end of this session, we will also invite you to two things which are related to the hackathon. Number one being our new forum, community forum, where you will be able to directly communicate with me and Ayush and also parts of our development team with questions regarding your prototyping or Weavy in general, and we can answer them very swift and publicly for everybody to see. Also, all the questions from the Q&A will be published in the community forum, and links will be sent out directly after the hackathon to all submitted users. The other thing is that we will invite you to our think tank, but we will talk more about that later. We do have a technical think tank. So without further ado, I would like to thank you for waiting, and it's cool to see so many software engineers and developers joining in. Let's have a blast. And Ayush, the scene is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. And I also welcome you all to the phase 2. And it was really nice to look out at the ideas you guys have submitted. And we are more than glad to have you on board and for the phase 2. And let's see what you guys are going to create for the prototype. And let's start this with a few announcements that I'm going to make that you guys should address while you're creating your prototype. So the first and most important thing is that some of you guys have submitted multiple ideas, and one of the idea might have got shortlisted among that. So please make sure that the prototype which you are going to create must align to your idea. Okay, so it's not that we are asking you to develop everything that you have stated in your idea, but make sure that whatever prototype you have developed and you're going to present, it should be functional and it should cover a minimum of all the features that you have addressed in your idea. So please keep that in mind. And the second thing is that please keep a GitHub repository for your prototype. And this is because since it's a very long prototyping phase and it's not just a 24 or 48 hours prototype phase. So we are more interested to see how you guys push commits to your GitHub repository and keep track among all your people who are collaborating in a team. So we will request you to create a GitHub repository as soon as possible when you start working on your prototype, and keep making regular commits on that. And we will be sharing out a form somewhere soon in the mid of the prototype phase, where you will be asked to submit your GitHub repository IDs. And also on the prototype submission form that you're going to fill on the HackerEarth, you will be asked for the GitHub repository. So please make sure to have an active GitHub repository engagement while you're in the prototype phase. Also, as Kris stated, we are going to have a community forum and you guys will be added to it very soon. So please make sure that you use the community forum to its best. And this is because we will be having this community forum for asking technical questions. So till now, we have received quite a few mails from candidates or from developers around having technical glitches or difficulties in implementing the client SDK or server SDK, and we were able to address a few of them, but not all of them. So please make sure that when you're added to the community, you use the community forum for asking all the technical questions. This will make sure that if someone else is having the same question, then they get the answer instantly instead of waiting for us to reply. So we will also try to make sure that your problems are addressed a lot quicker in the community forum as compared to the answers via mail, right? So this is another thing that you have to keep in mind. And next is, as I said, that inside the community forum you will find relevant threads. So as you know that Weavy is a collaboration SDK, and we provide multiple features. So there will be threads for each features, and once you are joined inside the community, you will find separate threads for each uh, separate feature. So make sure that you post your technical doubts on the relevant threads, and so that it will help us to keep the community structured, and we will be able to deliver your queries in a much faster way if we follow these instructions. And the next thing is that please try to understand that a lot of people are going to make this prototype phase along with you, people in your team, people in other team. So if there is any query that someone has asked in the community forum, and you feel that you went through the same phase and you were able to resolve it, then please actively engage to help others, because ultimately collaboration is something that needs to be done when you're going to develop something on such a long phase or such a long period of time. Okay, so please keep that in mind as well. And now next thing about the instructions for the prototype phase. So as I said in as it was mentioned in the description as well, that Weavy feature must be included in the prototype. So you should make sure that you use at least one feature from the Weavy. And if you guys are having any difficulties in setting up any kind of feature, or you need any help or assistance during the entire prototype phase, then we will be glad to help you out. And make sure that you reach out to us, and we will be more than happy to help you out in your prototype building phase. Okay, so in the ideas that we got, a lot of different ways are going to be implemented in the prototype phase for Weavy collaboration SDK. So some of you are going to create a mobile application, some of you are going to create a website, and some of you are going to create a Chrome extension and whatnot. So the usage of the Weavy feature is going to be in various domains over here. So please make sure that you guys have a proper README on your GitHub repository, so that anyone who wants to implement or replicate the entire prototype which you have created, it should be easy for them to do so. And we will be choosing those, we will be having so basically, since there is a lot of competition, so obviously those who are going to implement the idea to the fullest will be having an extra edge. But apart from that, please make sure that if your solution is a website, or if it is a mobile application, then it can be deployed somewhere. If it is a mobile app, you can deploy it to the Play Store. If it is a website, you can deploy it anywhere you like. And you should try to make sure that you deploy your solution, so that when the prototypes are being judged by the judges, they have a very active demo, instead of looking at the YouTube recordings of the video. If there is a prototype with which they can play around, then that will have an impact which will be very different from looking at the YouTube videos, right? So because you guys have a lot of time and you can actually manage to deploy your solutions, so if you want to make sure that you are not lagging behind, then, and if you have time, of course, then you should make sure that you deploy your solutions. And if you have a proper README, if you have deployed your solution, and if you have made sure that you use at least one Weavy feature, then I think you are in like it is very good. And even if we do not even if you are not moved to the grand finale, we will make sure that whatever work you have done, so you will be mentioned in the Hall of Fame page which we are going to create for this hackathon, so that you can add it anywhere. We will be also trying to do our best to recognize the efforts that you guys are going to put forward in this prototype phase. So we will be creating a Hall of Fame page, and if you have a proper GitHub with a proper README, and that can be mentioned in the Hall of Fame page as well alongside your prototype. So because we are right now not sure about how many teams are going to move to the finale, because we will look at the quality of the prototype which we are going to get. and then we will be deciding how many candidates or how many teams are going to move forward. But please make sure that you follow all these instructions, and once you are done with all this, you can anytime submit your prototype. And please make sure that once you submit your prototype using the Hacker page, or you can, yeah, you should submit your prototype using the Hacker page. So it should be editable until the deadline. So if you are not sure that the next feature or the next thing that you are going to implement might be possible to do within the time limits, then please make sure that you first submit the prototype of the like the alpha version first, and then once you have completed implementing another feature, then you move and submit or update your submissions with the next feature. So please make sure that you design your prototype development phase accordingly, because a lot of times I have seen that candidates miss out the timelines, and they do not make a proper design document with the relevant timelines, and therefore they miss out features. And so please make sure that you have a design document ready, that and please break down your idea, because some of you have submitted ideas which might take a bit long for them to develop. So we won't expect you to completely make your idea into a prototype phase, but please make sure that you have a bare minimum working model of all the features that you have talked about in your idea, and because that will add a lot of value to your prototype. Okay, so these are the few things that you have to keep in mind. So once you are moved to the community space, please make sure that you are actively engaging yourself in the community, because once you will start asking questions, then only we will be able to help you out. Okay, so in between, if you guys have any difficulties or if you have any questions, then you already know where to reach out, and you can note down these mail IDs, and we will be there to help you out in any phase. So I think now, if there are any questions, you can post it on the Q&A, and we will be addressing those. So Chris, you can take over from here.
Ayush, let's do a small Q&A, because I have some really interesting questions. I'm trying to answer them as we go. But I have one from Rahul Yadav, which Rahul has developed an unmanned aerial vehicle. So what does he need to submit? I mean, this is not an easy submission. What would we like to see from Rahul submitted?
Okay, so I think Rahul, if you have already developed it, and you can actually create a demo version, like you can create a video submission out of it, and you can submit it, you can mail it out to us, and then we will be because this is something which cannot be taken care by a hacker submission. So this is something out of the box. So please make sure that if you have a bare minimum working model right now ready, please record a video of it, and we will you can drop out a mail to us, and we will get back to you upon how you want to submit it on the Hacker forum, so that your entry is recorded over there as well. So
Yes.
we will get back to you over there.
Yeah, very good. I mean, as an overall, at least we need to see some kind of functionality, and the judges need to see some kind of functionality. For some cases, we realize it might be really hard to make a build. Then we could potentially allow a video or maybe a proper technical sheet or something. But we will get back to you in detail. If you have something that doesn't, as Ayush said, fit the template of Hacker Earth, then please get in direct touch with us and we will solve it somehow. All right, here is a good one. Ishan Naga, sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly, but he wants to know, or she wants to know, what is a Weavy feature? It's a good question, actually.
Okay, so Ishan, if you will go out to a website, which is the weavy.com. So let me give you a basic idea about Weavy. So Weavy is a collaboration SDK, and it is kind of a plugin and plug out feature that can be added to any application or any product. So be it a mobile application, be it a website, and you can add it on your website. And what is this collaboration SDK? So SDK stands for Software Development Kit, and by collaboration we mean Weavy provides features that helps your application to do engagements with your users. So there are features such as instant messaging, activity feeds, and to do tasks, and a lot of them. So if you will go to a website, and in the website you can find out there is a top navigation of features, and you will find out a list of all the features that we have to provide. So for example, let's talk about instant messaging. So right now what you're using is a Zoom Q&A section, which is a kind of engagement between me and you. So this is a feature that is providing a platform for you and me to engage. So this is an instant messaging feature. So in a similar way, this instant messaging feature is provided by Weavy, which can be used by any application. So the way we provide is that we do not actually provide any API calls for you to make, because we do not want to store your data. So any data which is coming from your application will be restricted to the um, surroundings of your application itself. So you will be deploying our server SDK on your cloud, and then you will be, because when I say server SDK, I'm in the backend of the Weavy. So you will have your own database, you will have your own cloud infrastructure on which you will deploy your server SDK. So your data will never leave your application. So that is a very when it comes to deployments on production level, data privacy and data concerns are really big important issues right now, right? So we make sure that we do not actually keep any track of your data. So we provide server SDKs as well. Now coming to the client SDK, which is the actual part which will be used for integration in your website or your application, right? So inside the client SDK, we provide you a possibility to add the Weavy features onto your applications in a minimal lines of code. So in the minimal lines, I mean in actually 4 to 5 lines. Just by adding 4 to 5 lines, you will be able to integrate the Weavy feature into your application. Now, when I say integrate, it means that you will be having a fully functional instant messaging feature into your application without actually writing the entire code for behind the workings of that instant messaging. Okay, so it will be inside your application, so there is no friction between the user and your applications whenever. So if you are using the Q&A right now, then you can see that in the Q&A the meeting is also, you can hear me out, you can look at the screen, and at the same time you can ask questions as well. So it's embedded inside the Zoom meetings itself, and you are not going to any third party application for asking or for providing this feature. So this helps in user engagements, improving or reducing the user friction, so that the user retention on your application is also increasing. So these are the few important things, and I think now you will have a basic idea about the Weavy features. There are a lot of them. You should definitely check out our products page on the Weavy website.
Thank you very much. Very good answer. Let's see. We get a lot of IoT questions and on how to. Sorry, let me just recap my thoughts on how to submit IoT projects. Well, it goes for the same as the unmanned aerial project. Reach out to us, show us what you want to do, and we will figure out a way for you to submit it. That is for IoT projects which you feel that you cannot submit in the Hacker Earth framework. We also get some really good questions. All of the questions are good, but some really good questions. This one might be for you, Ayush. Srejit is asking if it's necessary to upload his or her project to Play Store, or can I just provide the APK? Is that fine? I mean, the short answer is that we would actually like to see it on GitHub, not Play Store. But we're not going to limit them uploading it to Play Store, I guess. What do you say, Ayush?
Yes, so I think over here, if you're uploading it to the GitHub, then it can be replicated by some other user as well. But I think that if you have time, you should definitely use this opportunity to learn how to upload things on Play Store, because once you do that, your application might get a lot of traction from the Google Play Store itself, right? So if you are able to upload it on the Play Store, then it's well and good. Actually, it's very good. But if not, then you can certainly provide us the APK and we can test it locally on our mobile phones.
All right, cool. What do you say, Ayush? Let's get moving to actually showing how it's done, and I'll keep collecting questions meanwhile.
Okay.
I would just like to answer from Ibrahim one question. Will we receive any mentors to guide us in our projects? Well, you're talking to them, guys. It's me and Ayush who are here to help you, and we will help you the best of our abilities to get you started and to get you running and to get your build complete or your prototype complete. We also have the support of the Weavy development team if there is any further complications, for example, that we need to address. But yes, me and Ayush is here. We're here to help.
Okay. So shall I start?
Yes,
Chris?
please.
Or there
Yes,
are more
please.
questions?
Or
Okay.
you can go ahead, and then we'll do a Q&A after your presentation again.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, so this is the Weavy product website. So you can see that we have a lot of features. If you will go over here on the features, then there are a lot of features that you can actually make use of. And you already have a 30-day free trial. So whenever you will launch this on your local machines, you will automatically generate a serial key, which will be valid for 30 days. And in case you guys need more extension for the trial phase, we will be more than happy to give you a free license key, which will be valid for 90 days post your 30 days completion, or let's talk about that later, right? So it will vary depending on how long the prototype phase goes. And now coming to the starting point, that what is the starting point for all of you guys if you want to start using Weavy in your applications. All right, so if you go over here into the resources, then you will find the developer portal. So the developer portal should be the starting point for you guys to start engaging with Weavy. And if you go to the getting started section, you can see that there is an article called as Introduction to Weavy. So this article will give you a fair idea about what Weavy is, and whatever I have talked about till now, you will get the same thing over here as well. So I think it will be, if you are coming over here for the first time, then it will be a good point to follow the step-by-step guide and not jump on the quick start. And if you will go on the step-by-step guide, then you will be actually, if you follow all these articles, then you are actually going to be able to implement the Weavy on your applications in a very easy way. So let's start with the first one. So once you have reached on this page, the first step would be for you to launch the Weavy backend instance, okay, which is the Weavy server SDK. Because the Weavy server SDK is going to help you out and in setting up the local Weavy instance, which will be helpful for you. Okay, so now there are certain prerequisites that are needed for you. For example, you will need Git for Windows that can be used for actually cloning any GitHub repository. And if you are a developer, then most of you must have or might have by now the Git installed for the Windows. Then you will be having certain prerequisites regarding the database. So you will need to download the SQL Server and the SQL Server Management Studio. Okay, so both of them have a community version which is free of cost, so you don't have to pay anything over here. And the next thing is Visual Studio. So this links will actually redirect you to the download page. You can download the community version and then keep going. And the next is the Visual Studio. So please make sure this is Visual Studio and it is different from the Visual Studio Code, which is also known as the VS Code. So Visual Studio is something different, and you need to make sure that you install Visual Studio. And it also has the free community edition, so you don't have to pay anything for installing the prerequisites. Now next step is to download the Weavy. So if you will go to github.com/Weavy, which is the official GitHub page for the Weavy, and then you will find out that we have deployed our solution on the GitHub. And the first step to get started is to clone this. Now, before I start moving forward, please make sure that these things are only valid on the Windows machine. Okay, so if you are not on a Windows machine, then you have to somehow use virtual environment, and inside that virtual box you can use Windows machine and develop this prototype. Okay, so if you want to also, like there is another alternative to this as well, which I will talk about a bit later. Okay, so so once you have installed the Weavy on your cloned the GitHub repository. Okay, so this means that now you have the instance, backend instance on your local machine. And next step is to create the Weavy database. Okay, so we are using the SQL Server Management Studio for creating the database. Okay, so this is a fairly easy step, because if you have installed the Server Management Studio, you just have to open it up and create a new database. We have shown you all the instructions on how to do it. And then once you have created the database, nothing else is remaining. Just open the whatever you have cloned over here. You have to just open that folder and open the file in the Visual Studio, which is also a prerequisite. So once you have opened that file in the Visual Studio, there is nothing else remaining. You just have to start without debugging. So there is an option called a start without debugging in Visual Studio, and you can start using the backend instance on your local machine. Now, one thing is that if some of you will get errors for the first time when you're going to follow all these steps. Now, for that, for the runtime errors, whatever you are going to get, you have to try rebuilding your solution. So for that, you have to clean the VV, build VV, and all of these things are available in the build drop down. Okay, so this is fairly easy, and then you can start and then you can start without debugging. So if you're still facing issues, or then you can, for now, this get help will redirect you to the contact us page, where you can ask for help from me and Kris. But very soon you will be added to the community forum, so I will suggest you guys to ask your questions there, because we will be having, apart from us, we will, as Kris said, we will be having the support from the Weavy developer team, and we will be able to quickly resolve your queries on the community forum. So now the next step is, once you have completed setting up everything on your local machine, so what's the next step? So the next step is that once your server SDK is up and running on your local machine, you can start using the client SDKs. Okay, so in the client SDK, you can actually follow, there are multiple tutorials, you can follow any of them. For example, I will give you a basic idea about how to get started with the client SDK. So in the client SDK, you have to make sure of few important things. So first of all, the client SDK is the JavaScript. You can call it as a JavaScript SDK as well. Okay, so it is nothing but a JS SDK. So the way this client SDK works is that you have to create a JS instance of Weavy on your application. So for example, let's talk about this page, whatever you're seeing right now. Okay, so this page should have an HTML code somewhere, right? So on that HTML page, you have to add these lines, few lines of JavaScript code to get the Weavy instance up and running. Okay, so now adding a few complications to this, so to make this more real time and meaningful. So if you are having an application, then multiple users can log into your website, to your product at the same time, right? All right, so there are different users who will be using your application, right? So how to make sure that each user is having its own Weavy instance, right? So there should be some way or some mechanism to authenticate, right? So if you are building a product, then you make authentication systems that make sure that once the user is logged in, you can keep track of who is using your product or using your application right now. In a similar fashion, even Weavy wants to know, Weavy should know that which user is actually using the features of Weavy, or which user is actually being on your website right now. So obviously the common sense is that there should be some way for the Weavy to know about which user is using it. So there should be some mechanism for the authentication. Okay, so the mechanism for authentication is, So if you're having the JavaScript SDK, the most common way is to follow the single sign-on process, which is the SSO in short. So the SSO process is basically on the OAuth 2.0 protocol. So let's not go deep over there, but just on the overview, you have to create some kind of token in which there will be details about the user who is using your website. And the most common way of creating the tokens is the JWT token. Okay, so now you can see over here that once you create that JWT token, or there how will you create that JWT token? Okay, so there are inside a JWT token there are certain details which you will pass, from which we will know, or the Weavy will know, that which user has used is logged into your system. Okay, so for that, before you go and create the JWT token, there are certain prerequisites, that is to configure a client, to configure your client. So over here, if you're going to use the client SDK, you have to create a client. Okay, you can create multiple clients. So let's say that you are having 5 different applications. Okay, let's say that you are having, your product is having 5 different applications. Now each application can have its own client, so that you can keep so that it's a like separation of concerns, right? So each product is having its own client. You can create multiple clients. The way is that you go over here on this URL, and then you can easily go and create your client. So whenever you are deploying it on your local machine, this Weavy URL will be a local host. Okay, and then once you are done with this, you should get a client ID and a client secret. So once you create a client, you will have this client ID and the client secret. Now this you should note down, or you can always visit to this URL and look at this in the details again, because the token which I was talking about, you need to pass that client ID and client secret inside that token which you're going to create, because we should know, right, that which user is logging in and to which product or which application of your product is it is logging to. Okay, so this should be kept this should be created first before we talk about creating tokens. Okay, so now the next important thing is that there are certain issues regarding the jQuery and the JavaScript SDK of Weavy, which is the client SDK. So please make sure that if your product or if your application uses jQuery, then you import it first, and then you import the Weavy JS secondly. Okay, so as I said that Weavy client SDK is the JavaScript SDK, so you have to use this structure to actually load it on your HTML page. Okay, so over here Weavy URL is nothing but your local host. All right, so the next step would be that over here, as you can see that we are if you are not familiar with JavaScript, then the new word is used for creating a new instance, and this is kind of a function which is being called, which will return an object or an instance of Weavy. Okay, so this is the basic syntax, but right now this won't work, because as I said, there is no way for Weavy to know which user is logged in, or for which application and which user this instance has been created. Okay, so we have to pass some kind of information regarding the user inside this Weavy function. For that, we're going to create a JWT token. Now there are various ways to create JWT token. You can create it using online generators as well. And if you're using this for the very first time, I strongly recommend that you use online generators to create a static token, and that token you can hard code into your HTML page and see first of all if it is working or not. Okay, so all the instructions regarding the creation of JWT token on the backend, which will be actually meaningful when you start developing your product on a trial phase. So that on that during that you will be developing or creating a JWT token on the backend, on your backend service. Okay, it can be now you can create JWT token on your backend. So for example, you are developing your application using Django framework. Okay, and now this Weavy is actually on .NET framework. Okay, so there are two different backend systems which you will need to tackle, but the point is that your application is in Django, and that can remain entirely in Django, and this server SDK of Weavy is in um, .NET, so it can remain in .NET, and you have the choice to create the JWT token. You have to create some kind of API that you can create in the Weavy backend as well, or you can create it on your application backend itself. you can call that API from your front end page, from your HTML page. No matter, the API can be in your own backend or it can be in the Weavy server SDK backend. Okay, so you can have both these choices. So all these things are mentioned in the tutorials for each application, which I will talk about in a bit detail later. But yeah, once you create the JWT token, so also there are certain claims. So inside the token, there are certain claims that you need to make sure you pass correct key value pairs to make that a token a valid token. Okay, so all those things are listed in detail in the authentication tutorial, which you will find out in the getting started section. Now, once you create that token, the next important thing is that you have to specify the location on your page, right? That we should know, right? That where it should display the feature. So you have to create some kind of container for that. So just pass on a random ID and in the random div. So this div should be the one where you want to display the VV feature. So just pass on a random ID over here, and that ID, whatever you have chosen, just make sure that you pass on the same ID over here as well. Okay, so now if you look, this is the final result, that like this is the entire thing that you have to add on your HTML page to get these VV features in your application up and running. So just this few lines of code, whatever you have, you will read above, all this is summarized over here in this. So let's go through this. First of all, you create your JWT token. So this can be from any API call. And if you want to know the functions on how to do that, there are tutorials on the getting started on the developer portal, which you can follow on the ways to create JWT token. Now, the next thing is, once you know the JWT token, which that means that now you can create a VV instance. So the VV instance can be created then. Now there are concepts of spaces and applications inside the VV. So the architectural design of VV is such that we have spaces which can be called as rooms as well. Now, inside a room, you can have multiple features or multiple applications. So, for example, over here, this is a type of posts. Okay, so this is a activity feeds feature. Okay, that you can add. So, in a similar way, if you will look at all the articles about all the different features, you will have a different kind of type. You can read more about the spaces and the apps inside the getting started section again. So that's it. You just have to create a JWT token, and whenever you are creating a VV instance, just pass that JWT token, and then once the user is authenticated, you can use this instance to add all the spaces and all the applications. And whatever container you are creating over here, just make sure that for each application you specify the container, that where should this application load. So once you specify this container details, your application will start loading on that specified location. So that's it. Now you are able to integrate the client SDK on your HTML page or on your application. Now, the another point is, if we are using, now this is for the websites, web applications. If you're using mobile applications, and if you want to use mobile applications, then it depends on framework to framework, what framework you're actually using to create the mobile application. So you will find out relevant tutorials on the getting started section for the same, and you can follow that. So this is the entire process of getting started. We talked about installing the server SDK. We talked about a general step-by-step approach to set up the client SDK. And this is the process which will remain similar irrespective of what type of feature you are integrating, because that's only going to change this value over here. Rest all these steps are going to remain same. So now, if you have any questions or anything regarding the implementation or regarding the setup of client and server SDK, please wait for the community forum to set up. And once you guys are added inside the community forum, you can start asking your questions, and we will be more than happy to help you out. Okay.
Thank you, Ayush. So I have some relevant questions. Well, they're all relevant questions, but I have some good questions from the Q&A, which I want to address to both you and me. So one very valid question was that, will Weavy actually work with MongoDB instead of SQL?
Okay, so the tutorial right now is relevant for SQL, and if you are going to create your own database, which is MongoDB, if you're going to use that, then because as I said, that Weavy right now is designed for simplicity, uh, and it's like that. Developers should focus on their main product, whatever they have right now, and this should add in as a plugin and plug out feature, right? So if you want to, I don't know that why you want to use MongoDB instead of what SQL setup we have done for you. But if you want to use that, then there will be certain configurations in the models that we're creating for giving or for storing the entries in the database, right? So if you are familiar with the .NET language, I will strongly suggest that you can start creating your own version of the VB backend, because you already know the GitHub repository, you already have the entire code. So you just need to make sure that you do relevant changes in the backend framework, and then you will be like, there is no restrictions on the type of database that you want to use, because ultimately it's something different from the server, like from the server code, right? So there are few changes that you need to do at the model level to make sure that whenever we are storing or creating an entry in the database, it is being done in the right format. Okay, so you can certainly use that, but I would strongly suggest that if there is no specific necessity for you to do such changes, then you should refrain from doing those, right? Because if there are certain things that you need to make sure works, like works only with your MongoDB database, then feel free to create your own version of it, and we will be more than happy to help you out in the process. But if you are not having any specific requirements of doing that, I would suggest that you stick to this and focus, like spend your time on your application. That's it.
Perfect answer. Thank you. Another one, which I will address for you, Ayush, and make it easy for myself, is from LaSalle. And the question is, can we use the same code for React.js or CDE for React.js?
Okay, so for that, I will say that you should go to the developer portal and come in the framework section. So we have provided an easy guide on how to integrate VB with React. Okay, because in React is a framework, and right now whatever we have talked is a basic or general way of integrating it in a HTML page. Okay, so that HTML page, if you're using React framework for the front end, then I think this article is for you, because we have talked about how to create a shared component so that you can share your VB application, whatever VB instance you have created among multiple components in the same page. Okay, so I think this article will help you out. And again, if you are trapped somewhere, feel free to push out on the developer portal, or you can use the community forum once you're added to it. So ask your questions there, and our developer team and we will be more than happy to help you out. Okay.
Yeah, and feel free to ask as many questions as you like. There is no dumb or stupid questions. We are here to help. And as Ayush said, we have various forums. You can definitely ask it on the community forum and then help to share the knowledge to other participants as well. Or you can reach out to me and Ayush and we can do our best to guide you. Okay, Ayushi is asking, is Weavy future work in Android Studio?
Yes, definitely, it is going to work, and you will find out relevant tutorials regarding how to do that. And if you are using Android Studio for developing, I would say that if it is, yeah, okay. So for that, I think right now on the developer portal, you won't find out anything regarding the Android Studio, but we can take care of that. We can push out a tutorial for integrating, because we already have tutorials regarding integration with Xamarin and other frameworks, which are actually mobile application frameworks. Okay, so you can find out about tutorials regarding Telerik and Sync Fusion as well, and these are the frameworks. And if you're using the Android Studio for creating one, I think that we will create a tutorial regarding the step-by-step process for doing that, and that will ease your process. But definitely you can use Android Studio, but if you want to have an article dedicated to the step-by-step process, then we will push out for you as soon as possible.
Indeed. Okay, I got a full blast of questions for us. I like this. Thank you very much for being great sports in the Q&A. Let's see. Let's pick this one from Saurav. Which languages platforms are supported via the SDK for web and mobile?
Sorry, which languages?
Or platforms are supported via the SDK for web and mobile?
Okay, so you can develop your product or your application in any framework in any language, okay? Because the server SDK is right now in .NET framework, and you do not need to make any changes on the server SDK to use the features that we have to provide. So that is not required. You can obviously choose to customize the server SDK to add new features, and for that you will need some knowledge on .NET, but it is not at all required that you do such changes, that you have to compulsory do such changes. So the server SDK can remain untouched. You can deploy it as it is, whatever we have provided, and we take care of all the bugs and all the fixes. We push out all the versions on a regular basis, so we update it and it's our responsibility. Okay, so now coming to the client SDK, which is going to be used in the HTML pages. So please understand that it is a JavaScript SDK, and it does not matter which framework you are going to use for creating your product or your application, because client SDK can be integrated anywhere with any framework. So you can actually choose any framework of any language you like and start integration. And if you are stuck somewhere in any particular framework for which you do not find any tutorial, or if you want some help, the community forum is the place, because we have our developers team who will be actively engaging in the community forum with you guys, and will be the support along with us to make sure that the prototype, whatever application you are using, whatever languages you are using for creating those, you get the support you need. And yes, that's it. Like, you can actually use any of them, any framework you like.
Perfect answer. Thank you very much. Let's see. Let's take another one. We got 14 open questions. Sorry, I just lost myself in the list of questions. I can answer for Sartak. I see that you have a electronics hardware component project. I would advise same for IoT projects, that you reach out to me in Ayush, and we will figure out how to submit it. And that's Kris@weavy.com or Ayush@weavy.com. I'll send you the email addresses. And same for you, Madhav Pujari, also an IoT project. Reach out to us and we will figure out how to submit it. Aman has a very relevant question. Do they need to generate JVT every time or just once?
Okay, so JWT tokens are actually you have to create a, so like if you are talking about production level deployments, like the one which you're going to deploy for the demo purpose, then you have to create some kind of function inside the backend code. It can be in the Weavy backend, and we have covered that. So if you will go over here, let me quickly show it out. So let's talk about in-app tasks management. Okay, so over here, setting up authentication is the way. So we have talked about 3 ways on how to create JWT tokens. You can manually create. This is just for the testing purpose to get things up and running. The next is creating an endpoint at your end. So you have to create an endpoint, the API call which you can make. Okay. And the next is how to create an endpoint at Weavy server. So this is something which is dependent on the framework we are going to use. So this is not in our hands. But how to create an endpoint at the Weavy server SDK is something which we can actually show you guys. Okay. So we have covered in detail about how to create a JWT token. So you have to create an endpoint, and whenever you have to specify that in the JavaScript SDK that we saw just the function, we can see it over here as well, that yeah, you can use it like this. So this is the client SDK. Okay, this is the HTML page on which you are going to use the Weavy application. So you can kind of create a function which will give you the token, and inside that function you can make any call. Now this is an ajax call, but yeah, you can, if if you're reference, if you're making a course request, for example, if you are using an endpoint which is not on your domain, which is on a different domain, then you will have a different function which will be responsible for giving you out. For example, this is for the Weavy server SDK, but let's say that you have created the function for the JWT token on your backend, and you have deployed it somewhere else. It is having a different URL. Your endpoint is having a completely different URL. In that case, you need to use some other function to make a function call and pass all the parameters. And once you get the token, you can use that over here. So this is a kind of integration, like this is integrated inside the HTML code of the page. So yes, it's generated every time, but you can actually create some kind of logic on your Java JWT token as well. So as I said, that each JWT token has some kind of claims. So there is a claim, you can expire, you can set the expiry date, you can set the time to, you can easily set the TTL, which is the time to leave. And whenever you get a request, you can make sure you can store that JWT token on your server end and see if the TTL is still active or not. And if it is, you can return the same token, so you don't need to generate it every time. But you can complex this logic if you are on a production level by using a JWT token with a refresh token. But I think this is not at all required right now. You guys can just create a JWT token every time you call this function, or every time there is a hit on your HTML page. But yeah, there is always a possibility to improve. So yeah, right, that's the answer to it.
Perfect, thank you. And I'll give you an easy one while I'm replying and collecting questions. So the README file in the Weavy SDK package, what is its use?
The README file on what?
Yeah, I like this question. I have nobody wanted to acquire to this question, so it's from a dear anonymous attendee. README in the Weavy SDK package. What is its use?
Okay, so the purpose of a README is to make sure that when someone else is reading your repository, is coming to your repository, it is like a new visitor. Okay, so you have to make sure, so a visitor who is not aware of what your repository has. Okay, so he can or she can read the README, and the README should have, ideally should have instructions about what your repository is about, what are the features that you have to provide, what is the way to set it up. And it should be, it is kind of a document which is in the markdown format if it is in the GitHub, and you can use it to let others know how to replicate your repository on their local machine. Or for it can also be used to uh, describe your product. And it's like a read me, it's like read me before you start doing anything else on this repository. So that's how the name is, that read me first. It should be like read me first, but the name is read me. So that's the use.
Perfect answer. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed that question, by the way. Durga Samudram, sorry if I pronounced it incorrectly, but I will answer this for you. What is a GitHub repo and README? You just got the answer what a README is. And the GitHub repo is basically well, it's kind of a cloud service where you can push your code to, and then you can share with us and we can follow. I will link that for you directly. And it's perfectly fine that it's your first time. We all started somewhere sometime. So you should feel extra welcome. I think it's really cool that you're joining in on Hackathon. Okay, let's see what else we got. Well, Ayush, you can actually take this question from Naga. Naga is also a complete beginner. So the question is, could you tell me what we're actually doing in the prototype phase? What is a prototype exactly? Can a prototype be a PowerPoint or it needs to be a working model?
Okay. So a prototype is expected to be a working model, and it should not be a PowerPoint presentation or something like that. You have to create something which is working. It can be a mobile application, it can be a website, it can be an IoT project, it can be a hardware project, just a hardware project. It can be anything, but make sure that you use a VV features inside it. Okay, so this is a prototype, and ideation phase is different from the prototype phase. Prototype is like a building phase where you make some as I said, make some kind of a product out of your idea. Okay, so this is the prototype phase, and inside the prototype phase we expect you to deliver a working model with the bare minimum features, with the bare minimum working model of your features which you have talked about in your idea. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. There's also a question, do I need to commit my code to GitHub every time?
No, you don't need to do it every time. But as I said, that it's good for you guys that your team plans out. So you have a design document ready. You can have a SRS document if required, but that's for your internal purpose. We're not at all interested on how you guys collaborate. What we would love to see is there are frequent commits, so that we make sure that you guys have really worked on creating the prototype. Okay, so if you are making a commits at a regular interval, it will help us track down few things, that how is the collaboration going. Was it a one time thing, or you actually committed on a regular interval? So if you are committing on the regular interval, which means it also means that you have divided your entire prototype building phase into set of small tasks or small phases, and each time you achieve a milestone, you make sure that you push it on the GitHub repository. Okay, so this is how it should be done, that you have to break down the entire feature that you have to provide, or you are going to provide, into small milestones. And after you achieve a single milestone, make sure you commit on GitHub about that. So this is how it is going to be, and we would be more than happy to help you out in like if you have any questions regarding how to break down for a VV, how to break down a VV integration feature. Because as I said, that if you want to use VV inside your application, there are few steps. You have to set up the server SDK. That can be the first milestone. The second milestone is you manually create a JWT token. So no, second milestone is you have to create a client IDs and client secrets using the client SDK. Now that can be done from the server SDK installation. Now the third thing would be to create a manual JWT token from the online generator and use it to see if you are able to use features or not. The next step would be to add JWT tokens on your on your VV backend or on your own application backend. Then that's it. So make sure that you divide your entire project into small milestones, and commit it on a regular interval. That's it.
Perfect, thank you. There's a question that I do not know the answer to. Will we work with Kiwi or Kiwi MD? Are you familiar with that, Ayush?
No, I think we for this we might. I would say that once you have the community forum up, you can ask the questions over there, and our developers team will
Yeah.
answer these questions on our behalf.
We will do some research on this, and please post this in the community forum, which you will be invited to after the webinar. Okay, we're actually running over time. We still have 63 attendants. I fully understand if you need to drop out, because we only booked an hour for this webinar. But for me and Ayush, we would like to keep going in order to answer as many questions as possible to get you the best start as possible. Can a prototype for a web application be a Figma UI prototype? What do you say, Ayush? Can we properly provide the judges with a
Now,
Figma? I think we need to have
um,
a working prototype.
yeah, it should be a working prototype. You can use Figma in the meantime, like for creating the designs and wireframes of your front end, but we would expect a working model and not a Figma prototype.
Yeah, yeah. So the answer is no Figma prototypes allowed. Working models is okay. This one you can take, Ayush, from Sumwadeep. Sumwadeep, again, sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly. We want to add a chatbot feature and host our website. So where will we give the questions of the chatbot, or how will it work in the hosted website when anyone visits our website? So I think this question is, how do you customize the chatbot and the questions for the chatbot?
Okay, so yeah, like you can use the instant messaging feature. So there is already a chatbot which is implemented as for a demo purpose. And if you are interested in creating chatbots and using the instant messaging feature of Weavy to use that, there will be some customizations that you might need to do on the Weavy server end, because like there are different ways of using chatbot services. You can use an automated you can use some kind of you can ask some kind of automated questions, but also there is an AI add on to it if you are really interested in doing that. So I think you need to do a bit research on this end, on what will be the proper way. But yes, if you can use the community forum to ask help on how can you add a chatbot using the instant messaging feature, because because Ruby developers team has already done that, so they will be so you will get a proper guidance from them on this.
Yes, I agree. The community forum will be kind of key to all your technical questions. Of course, as I said before, as we stated several times during this webinar, me and Ayush will always be there to guide you and help you and get you started. But the community forum will be populated more and more and more, and there will be loads of direct answers. Okay, one last question for you, Ayush, from
Yes.
Nilesh Gupta. As we need multiple servers for our project, we have multiple repos for different architectural components. So can you provide a form which will have multiple repo options to be filled in it?
Yeah, I think that inside the link which will be shared, like which is provided in the Hacker Earth form, you can list down all the repos using a CSV format. So you can use the values links using you can separate all the links by comma and paste out all your links, and we will be able to access all of them. But if that does not work, I think we will collaborate with Hacker Earth to create a customized form where you will be able to add as many links as possible. We will take care of that.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, dear attendees, good job, Ayush. Glad to have you on board. Fun fact, Ayush was actually recruited from the first or the previous hackathon we ran. So we had a question before if there is possibilities for internships or full-time positions. Well, officially no, but I mean, we're always interested in talent. So, and we always have positions open. So of course, if you participate in hackathons or a think tank, etc., of course, we will have an eye up for you, so to say. I don't know if that's Swedish saying, but I think it makes sense in English too. We actually got 70 questions in our Q&A. We have done our best to answer all of them. I hope I haven't missed any one of them. For the continuing of the prototype, it is key, and I can't stress this enough, it is key that you join our community forum and you use that for technical questions. It's also, besides mail, it's also the shortest link to get in touch with me and Ayush, and also by support of our developer team. You will also find a lot in our developer portal, different articles. And if you feel that you miss any article, there is anything unclear, you should pop this to me and Ayush, and we are going to investigate, research, create an article that suits the needs asked for. I would like to thank everybody for being really, really good sports. Yes, last question. You will definitely get a recording of this session. It is being recorded. Soon will take a couple, I don't know, an hour maybe to process it. And then we will share it via YouTube. And I will email out the YouTube link to everybody, both participants and all submitted candidates. I would also like to talk about our think tank, which you all will be invited to. We had a lot of questions if we officially support projects going to business, builds from the hackathon, if we help them go to market to go to business. Officially, no, we don't do that, but partially, yes, through our think tank, which is being relaunched. We do support, discuss, help each other with high and lows in code and also business and go-to-market strategies, stuff like that. So if we don't have any further questions, I would really, really like to thank you for spending 1 hour and 16, 17 minutes with us today. There will be an invitation for a halftime webinar sent out. And let's take it from there. Good luck on your prototyping. Ayush, good job. And I'll talk to you all shortly again.